I didn't see her face when I hit her. I only saw the body roll across the road. The sound was louder than I ever imagined a body could make against metal and glass. I slammed the brakes. My chest hit the steering wheel. The car screeched. Then, silence. I just sat there, frozen. The highway was empty. Rain tapped against the windshield like 1,000 fingernails. I glanced in the rearview mirror. No cars behind me, just fog, heavy and motionless. I stepped out of the car, heart thundering. There was no body. There was nothing. No sign of an accident. No blood, no twisted limbs. No broken glass. Just wet asphalt and my own tire marks arcing across the lane. I stood there shaking, staring at the spot where I was sure I had hit someone. I checked under the car, walked 100 feet in each direction. My brain was spinning, looking for any explanation that made sense. I had seen her figure darting across the road. Long black hair, a flash of pale skin. A scream caught in my throat, and now nothing. I climbed back in, locked the doors, and started driving. That's when the real horror began. It started with a sound soft and deliberate like breathing. From the back seat, I didn't speak. I just listened. Another breath, shallow, wet, as if lungs were struggling to work. I slowly adjusted the rearview mirror. Nothing. Still, I knew I wasn't alone anymore. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. I just kept driving, hands white-knuckled on the wheel, eyes locked on the road. My body was screaming at me to stop the car, to get out, to run. But some deeper instinct said no, that whatever was in that back seat, it didn't want me to look at it. Then the smell hit me. It was faint at first, like something left too long in the rain. But it grew stronger, thicker, until I gagged. Rot, decay. It smelled like something dead had been soaking in stagnant water. And that's when the whisper came, right behind my ear. You shouldn't have left me. I nearly veered off the road. My eyes burned with panic. I reached back with one hand, desperate to touch anything to confirm or deny the nightmare forming in my mind. My fingers brushed something cold, damp, flesh. I screamed and slammed the brakes. The car jerked to a stop in the middle of the empty road. I turned around in one violent motion, but again, the back seat was empty. Not just empty, dry. Clean, as if no one had ever been there. My brain fractured. I sat in silence, every nerve screaming. I checked the rear door handles. Locked. I opened the trunk. Empty, and then I saw it. Wet footprints, starting behind the driver's seat, leading across the fabric, and disappearing right where I had thrown my work bag. I don't remember driving home. I don't even remember walking through the front door. What I do remember is waking up hours later, fully clothed, lying on the living room floor. I wanted to believe it was stress, sleep deprivation, a waking nightmare. But then the text started. I got one that morning from an unknown number. Are you going to leave me again? Then a photo, taken from the back seat of my own car. I was in it, driving, eyes forward. The time stamp was exactly the moment I had slammed the brakes the night before. I ran outside. The car was locked. I checked everything, under the seats, the trunk, the glove box. Then I saw it on the back seat. A single strand of wet, black hair, still glistening. I burned the car a week later. Not sold, not traded. I left it in the woods, poured gasoline over it, and lit a match. I don't remember the walk back. I just know I couldn't drive that thing anymore. Not after what I saw in the photos. Not after the calls. But that didn't stop her. Every few weeks, I'll get another text. No words, just photos. Taken from behind me, on the bus dot, in a cab. Once, even inside my apartment. Each one from that same angle. She's always there, watching, close enough to touch. And I know this much now. I didn't hit her by accident. She stepped in front of my car that night. She chose me, and whatever she is, she's not done with me yet. I will never forget the moment I first saw her eyes. It was past midnight on my shift, and I was making rounds through the old wing of St. Mary's Hospital. The corridor was dim, the flickering fluorescent lights. I was nearly at the end of the hall when a metallic clang sounded behind me. I whipped around and saw a figure standing deathly still in the doorway of room 39. Her face was half hidden in shadow, but when she leaned into the light, they were entirely black, no whites or irises, just two dark voids staring straight at me. A jolt of terror shot through me, rooting me in place. Was this a lost patient out of bed? A cruel prank by someone on the night shift? I forced myself to speak. "Ma'am, are you okay?" My words echoed down the empty corridor, but she didn't respond. She only tilted her head. A chill wafted out from the doorway, carrying the stale odor of a room long sealed away. I blinked, and she was gone. She had vanished without a sound. Cold sweat prickled my skin. This couldn't be real. Room 309 was supposed to be empty. Part of a wing closed off for weeks. I had only taken this hall as a shortcut. No one was supposed to be here. I crept toward the half-open door of room 309. I paused outside, pulse thudding in my ears. Every instinct told me to run, but I had to know if someone was really there or if I'd imagined it. With a trembling hand, I nudged the door open wider. The hinges gave a low groan as I peered inside. The room was dark and freezing, lit only by a faint glow from the hallway. The air carried a sour undertone beneath the usual disinfectant smell. I flicked on the light. A pale yellow bulb sputtered to life, revealing a typical hospital room. The bed was neatly made and empty. The equipment in the corner was powered down and coated in dust. Clearly, no one had been here for ages. I was relieved to find nothing, and I told myself I must have imagined her. Exhaustion from my double shift could have conjured a hallucination in the dark. I stepped in for a closer look, and the heavy door drifted shut behind me. I checked behind the privacy curtain, and even under the bed, nothing. I felt foolish. It had to have been my imagination. Suddenly, the door slammed shut with a bang. I flinched. The overhead light flickered off, plunging the room into darkness. I yanked on the handle, but it wouldn't budge. I was trapped inside. In the pitch black, I heard a soft shuffle of footsteps behind me. I pressed my back against the door. "Who's there?" I croaked into the dark. No answer came, only a faint tapping along the wall, like fingernails skittering on tile. I squinted into the darkness and saw a shadow shift. In the far corner, the figure moved closer, stepping into the thin strip of light under the door. It was her, suddenly only an arm's length away. She wore a dingy hospital gown over a gaunt, bony frame. Her grey skin was stretched tight across her face, and her lips were cracked in a grotesque grin. Those eyes, glossy black pits, held no life, only malice. I tried to scream, but no sound came out, and I couldn't move. The woman's arm lifted slowly, her hand contorted, and fingers bent at unnatural angles. A guttural, wet chuckle bubbled from her throat, a horrible, drowning laugh. The sound snapped me out of my trance. I yelped and threw myself aside, barely dodging her grasp. My shoulders slammed into the wall, but I ignored the pain and scrabbled for the door. Her icy presence was right behind me. I felt the chill at my back as my fingers finally found the lock. I twisted the lock and yanked the door open. I burst out into the hallway and stumbled into the light beyond. I slammed the door behind me and stumbled backward. My screams had already drawn other staff, and I babbled that someone was in room 3. I thought I saw her eyes watching through the small window in the door. But by the time security arrived and opened it, the room was empty. At dawn, an older nurse told me that decades ago, a young woman died. She had attacked a nurse, and during the struggle she gouged out her own eyes and bled to death. In that room, not long after, I transferred to a different unit. I cannot walk past that wing without a chill running up my spine. Sometimes I still see those black eyes. I will never forget the black-eyed patient in room 39. I pray I never see her again. It was 3:37 in the morning when my phone rang, jolting me awake. I squinted at the glowing screen and saw a name I never thought I'd see. Emily. A chill ran through me. Emily had died 2 days ago. I fumbled to answer, my heart hammering in my chest and my throat tight. Hello. I croaked into the darkness. Static hissed on the line, and beneath it I thought I heard a ragged whisper. It sounded like Emily's voice, distorted and distant, gasping to words. Help her. I was left sitting upright in bed with a phone pressed to my ear. My blood turned to ice. I stared at the phone, willing this to be a nightmare. The call log was empty. No record of her number at all. My skin prickled. Emily's funeral hadn't even happened yet. We were still reeling from the news of how she died. She and our friend Lisa had gone on an overnight hike in Grey Pines and never came back. A search team later found Emily's body, and it showed signs of a struggle. Lisa was missing, and the sheriff suspected foul play. Now, my dead best friend's voice was pleading for help in the middle of the night. My rational mind fought against what I'd heard. Maybe it was a cruel prank, but the terror and urgency in that whisper felt real. Help her. Those 2 words echoed in my head. If Emily was gone, she must have meant Lisa. Maybe Lisa was still alive out there, hurt or hiding from whoever attacked them. Hands shaking, I dialed 911. I told the dispatcher that my friends were missing, and something terrible had happened out at Grey Pines. I left out any mention of the impossible phone call. I could barely believe it myself. To their credit, the police acted fast. I drove out behind the search team, heart in my throat. The forest was pitch black, a maze of shadows. I imagined my phone lighting up with that phantom caller, but it was just my mind playing tricks. Finally, I heard a shout. They had found someone. I stumbled after the officers. Minutes later, the team found Emily's body not far away, covered in pine needles. My knees buckled at the sight of the sheet over my friend's form. They caught the man responsible as he tried to flee. As we headed back, An officer pulled me aside. He held up a sealed evidence bag containing Emily's cell phone. My heart. The screen was shattered, caked in dirt and dark spatters of blood. Found near her body, he said quietly. Batteries missing. No way it could have made any calls. My head swam. I heard Emily's voice again in my mind, that desperate whisper. There was no cell reception for miles around, and her phone had been destroyed. Yet if not for that call, Lisa would have died alone in the dark. Emily's final act was reaching out. I barely slept in the days that followed. When I did drift off, nightmares jolted me awake to the memory of Static and that pleading voice. I kept checking my phone, half hoping, half dreading that it might ring again. The silence that followed was as loud as a scream. A week later, we buried Emily on a grey, drizzly morning. Raindrops tapped on the coffin as it was lowered into the earth. I stood among the mourners, numb with grief and gratitude. Just as the first handful of dirt hit the lid, my breath caught when I saw the screen. Emily was calling me again. I stepped away from the grave and answered it, my pulse thudding in my ears. This time there was no static, no distortion, only a gentle quiet. I heard Emily's voice, clear and soft, as if she stood beside me. She spoke just 2 words. Thank you. The line cut out, and with it Emily's presence faded into the hush of the rain. I stood there in the cemetery, phone pressed to my ear long after the connection. I understood that this was her final goodbye. Since that day, I've never had another unexplained call, but every so often I bolt awake in the middle of the night, heart pounding, expecting the ghostly ring. I lie there in the darkness, terrified yet comforted, remembering how it all began. I will never forget the phone call after death, the night my best friend reached out from beyond the grave to speak, to save a life. I was leaving the bathroom when I saw it. In the mirror behind me, another me stood motionless, eyes fixed on my back. I had already stepped into the hallway, yet my reflection remained in the bathroom, watching me leave. My breath caught and I froze in place, a spike of icy shock rooting me to the spot. For a heartbeat I couldn't breathe at all. My vision blurred as I fought the urge to scream. Heart hammering, I fled without looking back. My hands shook as I slipped into bed next to my sleeping husband. I didn't wake him or tell him what happened. I was too afraid that saying it out loud would make it real. I lay there in the dark for hours, heart in my throat. In the daylight I tried to tell myself it was all in my head, but as soon as night fell the dread crept back in. It happened the next night, and the next. Each time I went to the bathroom in the dark, I'd glimpse that unmoving shape in the corner of my eye, me, standing where I shouldn't be. It never blinked or moved, just stared with blank. I never dared look straight at it. I'd bolt each time, pulse pounding, leaving the light on as if that could ward off whatever that thing was that looked just like me. A few days later, my husband shook me awake from an afternoon nap. He was trembling as he explained that he'd just seen me sit up and crawl backwards off the bed on all fours, then walk out of the room without a word. The image was horrifying, especially because I was 8 months pregnant and could barely roll over. He called my name, and when I didn't answer, he looked up to find no one there. I was still asleep beside him. Hearing this sent an icy bolt of fear through me. He had seen it too, voice quavering. I confessed everything I'd been experiencing. We clung to each other, terrified. He murmured that we shouldn't talk about it anymore. That night we lay awake with the lamp on, jumping at every creak and shadow, feeling unseen eyes on us from the dark corners of the room. We felt utterly helpless against whatever it was. Late that night, I eventually had to brave the bathroom again. I crept down the hall, heart in my throat. The house was deathly quiet. As my bare feet carried me forward, the mirror hung on the wall, waiting for me in the gloom. I took a shaky breath and stepped inside. My own reflection met my gaze, just my face, pale and frightened. Nothing moved behind me. After a few tense seconds, I exhaled slowly. Maybe whatever it was had gone. Then the overhead light flickered. In that split second of semi-darkness, I glimpsed a hunched silhouette lurking right behind me in the mirror. My blood ran cold. I spun around, pulse rioting. Nothing was there. But when I whipped my head back to the glass, she was inches away on the other side of me. I was staring at myself, down to every detail of my hair and clothes. Only her eyes were wrong. They were cold and empty, devoid of any life. A nauseating wave of dread washed over me. I wanted to scream, but my voice had evaporated. My limbs wouldn't move. I was rooted to the spot as my doppelgänger slowly raised one hand toward me. The mirror surface trembled as if about to crack. In the reflection, I saw my lips curling into a slow, uncanny smile. My heart slammed against my ribs as her mouth opened. In my own calm voice, she whispered from the mirror, "Thank you for letting me out." I woke up to the sound of laughter echoing from my roommate's bedroom door. The clock blinked to 30 a.m. There was no one else around. No one should have been there. I froze, heart thundering, and listened as the giggles rose into a whisper. I thought it was her maybe. She had a friend over, or the radio left on too loud. I swung my legs out from under the covers, feet sinking into cold carpet. The hallway light was off, just a sliver of moonlight through the curtains. Every step felt heavy. I knocked gently on her door. Immediately, the whispering stopped, replaced by silence. Then a soft thump. Someone was flipping through one of her books on the floor, tinkling a little bell. It was our game. We used to play it as kids. "Come out," I called. "You're scaring me, Layla." No answer. The giggle started again. It sounded like Layla, but warped, like it was coming through water. I was the only one in the dorm. My hand shook as I turned the knob. The door wouldn't budge, locked from the inside. I knew she was asleep beside me in our shared room. Suddenly, the giggling changed pitch, as if laughter was circling around me. I jerked back. Shadows across the hallway wall stretched long and tall. My bedroom door creaked behind me. Something brushed past, nearly invisible in the dark and outline of a girl wearing one of my old Halloween masks. I blinked, and it was gone. My throat tightened. This was not right. "Layla, are you playing some weird prank?" I whispered into the silence. No response. I moved to my bed, heart galloping, lights flickering in their sockets overhead. Suddenly, my lamp blinked out. In the darkness, I saw a flash of something white beyond the door. I stumbled back against the wall. On the carpet lay the Belle Lella's toy from childhood. It hadn't made a sound in years. I heard the laugh again, soft and unearthly. In the mirror's reflection on the opposite wall, behind me, a face pressed close to mine, skin pale. I whipped around, but found nothing. Only the empty hallway and that little bell on the floor. The whisper turned to a rasp. "You can see me now." Cold dread flooded my veins. I pressed myself against the door. Questions battered my mind. Was Leela here? No. She was home, Was someone else here? Impossible. The door was locked. The laughter had a hollow echo, coming from everywhere and nowhere. My voice returned. I yelled her name, but it cracked. Lila. Footsteps approached from down the hall. I squinted toward the window. Moonlight revealed two silhouettes at the end of the corridor. Layla stood beside a figure too tall, too thin. The intruder had no eyes, just black sockets on a pale, expressionless face. Leela's hand gripped a ragged doll in the midnight air. It looked like her own doll, but something about its twisted smile was wrong. Leave, I whispered. Not to him, but to her. Leela's face was blank as stone. She tilted her head, lips moving in a mocking grin. Don't shut me out, the doll figure hissed. Suddenly, the stairwell door slammed open. My bed trembled, as if someone had jumped on it. The bell's little jingles chimed on their own. A silhouette rushed past me and down the hall, and I slammed the door shut. I bolted to the room across the hall. Inside, I locked the door and slid down against it. I was choking on a silent moan. Through the crack, I saw Lila's shape return to normal. She opened her eyes slowly. Are you okay? I stammered. She stared at me, eyes wide with confusion. Did you hear something outside? She asked. She had no idea. No, I managed. For a moment, I thought I had dreamed it, but on her forehead, smeared in shaky red letters, was a name. Miriam.